Chapter 334. The Palace 3. The ceremony conferring the position of the Staff of Incarceration was concluded in an unexpectedly brief manner. The high-ranking demons had gathered after a long time. Their reunion could have begun with a round of cordial greetings, exchanging pleasantries and recent news, all while delighting in delectable fare and exquisite brew, erupting into fits of laughter and perhaps even a dance or two. Yet from the moment half the demons were ordered to be killed, such a future ceased to exist. Upon the conclusion of the short investiture, Gavid stepped forward and prompted the demons to take their leave of the palace. Obligingly they left, for they had a great many things to contemplate and prepare for. Among their spoils of survival from the abrupt massacre was the power granted to them by the Demon King of Incarceration. There was no elaborate ritual required to receive this power. The moment they retreated from the palace, the demons sensed an unparalleled force residing within them. Though the strength of this power, how to master it, and how to adapt to the forthcoming changes were questions they had to contemplate on their own. The Demon King's power absolutely could not be used in the contests of hierarchy among the demons. What did this mean? If they could not wield this power against each other, so to whom were they supposed to direct it? The demons departed from Babel, deep in their contemplations. Aren't you disappointed? Morgiabella didn't have to worry about these dilemmas. She too had received the Demon King's gift, yet she didn't feel any special allure or desire for it. Power? She had possessed it for quite a while and didn't lack any of it. Even though the lower-ranking demons had received the king's power, Mor was confident she could annihilate them all if she so desired. It was an exceedingly arrogant conviction, yes, but Mor was confident of her strength. Her power, the demon eye of fantasy, was potent because she never imagined herself losing. Aside from her own enormous reservoir of dark power, this conviction guaranteed her victory. I'd be disappointed if it were me, Mor continued, voicing her thoughts. She didn't need to ponder or prepare for anything. No, on second thought she had much to prepare for. Fortunately, the Demon King of Incarceration had approved of Noir's business proposal, the mediator system, and subsequently asked her to formulate a plan. But there was no need to rush. No demon would dare to steal Noir's idea, and the plan could be written by the educated demons under her command. Isn't that so? You should have been the star today. But your investiture ended in just 5 minutes, Noir continued while leaning against a wall. She turned slightly to face forward. It doesn't matter, Amelia responded with a smirk. I didn't come all this way from the desert to enjoy a party. Aren't you just disappointed because you couldn't have fun? Correct, I am very disappointed. It's been 100 years since the palace's doors were opened, and it's been quite some time since the high-ranking demons gathered like this. It's also been a while since I saw you last, Noir chuckled while giving Amelia a once-over. Amelia, you've never attended an event in Helmuth while being holed up in the desert, right? I was looking forward to drinking with you after so long, Noir commented. I don't want to drink with you, retorted Amelia. Don't be so cold. Why can't we just sit and have a drink? Are you scared that I would drag you to the bed against your will? Said Noir. It could have sounded like a jest, but the one who said these words was none other than the Queen of the Night Demons, Noir. Instead of replying, Amelia simply fixed her gaze on Noir's eyes. Her eyes were glorious orbs of amethyst. They were magical eyes of illusion endowed with an authority that no spell could imitate. Don't fret. What you see before you is not an illusion but reality, said Noir with a chuckle. She winked at Amelia. Of course, if you wish, I can use these eyes to show and make you experience all your desires. So, interested? I have no intention of selling you my body, Amelia retorted. Oh my. Let's not use such words. I'm not trying to take your body or anything. I'm just intrigued, said Noir with a laugh. Noir's gaze shifted slightly. The figure of the Death Knight was reflected in her gem-like, shimmering eyes. If you don't want to play with me, how about him? Noir asked with a slight smile. Are you coveting what's mine? Retorted Amelia. Yours? The him I know wouldn't particularly appreciate such words, Noir stated, still chuckling. With a creak, the armor moved. Amelia had been suppressing the Death Knight's actions from the moment she faced Noir. She feared the Death Knight losing his temper and attacking Noir, and Noir deciphering the true identity of the Death Knight. Let him move freely. Might not be so bad, right? Amelia, compared to your relationship with him, mine is far longer, isn't it? said Noir. Duke Giabella, as you very well know, he despises you greatly. If I loosen his leash. His hatred for me is the most charming thing about him. Don't worry. I just want to greet an old friend, Noir interrupted, not letting Amelia refuse. The metallic creaking grew louder with each word Noir spoke. Amelia hesitated momentarily before slowly nodding and retracting the magical leash that bound the Death Knight. It's been a while, Noir greeted with a broad smile. Hi ha. Crush. The Death Knight charged and slammed Noir against the wall. It's been a while, friend. You? The Death Knight roared, his armored fists swinging wildly. Each punch made contact with Noir, causing her body to crack and explode with splattering blood. In no time, the Death Knight had devastated Noir's flesh, and he gripped the throat of what remained. Oh, I'm fine, Noir said as Amelia tried to intervene with furrowed brows. Noir just laughed, not having screamed or moaned even once. She did not bother regenerating her body and continued to speak even as the Death Knight crushed her throat under his grip. Hamel, I'm overjoyed that you despise me as much as ever. Although it's quite disappointing to have my greeting ignored, aren't you happy to see me? She asked. You damn, I'm quite curious as to why you who died 300 years ago were resurrected in such a form. But I won't ask. I think my question will only bring you humiliation and discomfort. I don't want your hate too. Whack. The Death Knight's fist struck Noir's visage. Humiliation? Disgust? The gaze of the Death Knight quivered intensely. He had risen anew as the Death Knight, driven only by hatred and a desire for revenge. He wanted to obliterate Vermouth's Descendant and the Lionheart clan, as well as everything connected to Sienna, Anise and Molan. It was his only desire. Yet he had been defeated by the young whelp of the Lionheart family, the one who was called the Second Coming of Vermouth. The defeat had been total and overwhelming, leaving no room for consolation even for the Death Knight's reckoning. His body had been annihilated, leaving only his soul. In a desperate bid to sustain his existence, he had bound his spirit to a suit of armor. He had come to Helmuth with Amelia Merwin in such a pitiful state. He had reached the Palace of Babel, where he had never set foot while alive but as an undead and the slave of a black wizard. He had endured the mocking gazes of his enemies he had failed to kill 300 years ago. He had been utterly disregarded by the Demon King of Incarceration. The Queen of Night Demons, Noir Giabella, was a demon Hamel had most desired to kill alongside the Demon Kings 300 years ago. This demon was uttering remarks no different from bare mockery, imbued with repulsive empathy. She even dared to adorn a friendly smile. How could he bear such humiliation? It's refreshing to see you haven't changed, Noir's voice echoed beside him. Even though her body and head had been shattered, she stood unscathed beside the Death Knight. Whether her destruction had been an illusion or she had regenerated her body anew, he neither knew nor cared to know. It only filled him with loathing and despair. His persona appears intact, an exquisite fake. Noir had no intention of revealing the truth to the Death Knight. If his persona was truly identical to Hamel's, he wouldn't yield under the weight of humiliation, hatred, and despair. The Hamel whom Noir Giabella had loved would never make such a choice. He was a man who would rather gamble his life in battle than yield or flee. If his body couldn't die and if his hatred preceded his death, he would swallow his immediate shame and despair and crawl back up. When that time comes, oh truly, Noir mused with a laugh, imagining such a future. Of course, even if that Death Knight reached her, Noir had no intention of surrendering her life to him. No matter how closely he resembled the original, that Death Knight was not the real deal. If anyone in this world could show Noir what death was, it had to be the real Hamel. Arg! The Death Knight rushed at Noir with a roar. But this time Noir did not allow him to harass her. Her eyes flashed and the Death Knight was immediately immobilized. You said you didn't want to drink with me, right? Noir glanced back at Amelia, her laughter ringing out. So, will you return to the desert just like this? You've traveled far from the distant Nahama to get here. Wouldn't it be a waste not to enjoy it more? Think again, how about it? I could throw a party just for you. Don't dawdle. I have other matters to attend to, responded Amelia. Matters? What matters? Asked Noir. Given I've returned to Helmuth after a long time and there are some events to celebrate, I thought I'd pay a visit to my hometown. Hometown? A look of surprise crossed Noir's face. She was well aware of where Amelia's hometown was. It was a place near the frontier of Helmuth, the domain of the demon king of destruction, Revesta. Though a territory of Helmuth, it was a land untouched by the gaze and rule of the demon king of incarceration. Moreover, demons living in this land strictly shunned outsiders. In that aspect, it bore a resemblance to Dragon Demon Castle, but the isolation of Dragon Demon Castle and Revesta varied in intensity. The demons of Revesta didn't belong to the hierarchy of Helmuth's demons. What the Revesta demons worshipped was the demon king of destruction, who had fallen into slumber 300 years ago, and they bore no loyalty to the demon king of incarceration. Only 2 residents of Revesta had gained renown outside of this secluded, primitive land. Jagan, who had been known as the Beast of Revesta, and Amelia Merwin, who became one of the 3 mages of incarceration. "I didn't know you loved your hometown so much," said Noir. "I don't love it," Amelia responded with a wry smile. "But it's better than being in the desert for now." "Are you running away?" Moore asked. Amelia's eyebrows wiggled. "Was that a hit?" Moore laughed while folding her arms. "Well, you have no choice but to run. You're linked to Eugene Lionheart with bad karma. And the disastrous Sienna has returned too, hasn't she? If she finds out what you did, that calamity of a wizard would flip your desert upside down," continued Noir. "I'm not afraid of her. Nor Eugene Lionheart," Amelia stated. "Really? So? I just want to avoid unnecessary fights. At least for now." Amelia didn't want to continue the conversation. She turned while pulling the frozen Death Knight towards her with her magic. "Run away." She thought it was a phrase not worth consideration, yet it kept echoing in her head. She had experienced a particular emotion when she saw the power of Eugene Lionheart in the Death Knight's memories, along with the divine magic of the saint, while not forgetting Sienna, who had destroyed the signature of the Green Tower Master in Aroth and threatened to sink Abram underwater. Amelia did not want to fully acknowledge what she felt when she learned of these things. Bam. Gah. So she jabbed her staff backward into Himoria's abdomen. Himoria bent over, caught off guard, clutching her stomach and gasping for air. Clang. Amelia headed for the elevator of Babel while dragging Himoria by her collar. The Death Knight, too, creaked along following behind Amelia. "Oh dear, poor thing." Noir smirked as she watched Amelia and her pets depart. As anticipated, Sienna roamed every corner of the room, even snatching away Akasha, and forced the virtually kidnapped Strahd II to use the room's power. Yet the chamber beneath the spire yielded no gains. Eventually, Eugene and Sienna returned to the Lionheart mansion after partaking in a shared meal to save the Emperor's face. "How did it go?" queried Christina, sporting a grin as they approached the gargantuan carcass of Rhyzakia near the forest edge. She was dressed in a jacket that Eugene had personally selected for her. The sight of it elicited a surge of irritation within Sienna. "Why are you dressed like that when we're not going out?" asked Sienna. "I am not cloistered within a room. It's only natural I would wear appropriate attire when venturing outside," retorted Christina. "But you're the saint. Shouldn't you be in a white robe? The current generation's gotten comfortable, deeming it permissible for clergy to behave inappropriately like this. Even Anise always wore her holy attire until she joined us in Helmuth," grumbled Sienna. "Lady Anise, the saint of 3 centuries past, allowed it, and the god of light wouldn't rebuke me merely for not wearing a robe," responded Christina. Even Eugene found that claim ludicrous. Before their relationship reached its current state, when he and Christina journeyed to the Samar forest, she had adamantly chosen to don her clerical attire and white robe. "You can wear other clothes. What should clergy wear if not their holy attire? In particular, Sir Eugene, accompanying you is an act of divine will. I cannot forsake my holy vestments." Yet, despite her previous assertions, Christina now calmly uttered lies without a hint of discomfort. "Why you stop arguing back incessantly? When an adult is speaking." The words slipped out before Sienna could catch them. Caught by surprise, she clamped her mouth shut. Yet Christina didn't miss the opportunity to catch Sienna off guard. "Oh yes, that's right. I'm truly sorry, Lady Sienna. Considering that you're a whopping 300 years older than me, it's absolutely improper for a mere 23-year-old like me to retort to you," said Christina. "That's not." "No, it's okay," Sienna mumbled. "No, it's not okay. If you are a towering old tree, then I am a budding sprout. How could such a fledgling as myself show disrespect to you, Lady Sienna?" continued Christina. "No, it's really okay. Feel free to talk back, said Sienna. Very well then. I understand, Lady Sienna. Since I have received permission, I shall continue to retort without reservation, said Christina. Sienna's pupils trembled greatly. There seemed to be no way out of this. So, you quite like the clothes? However, she was unwilling to admit defeat. Sienna composed her expression before lightly lifting the edge of her cloak. Do you see? The clothes you and Anise got. Eugene didn't choose them on his own. I helped him out as well. Well, it didn't take much time at all to choose. But Sir Eugene still personally picked them out for us, retorted Christina. Well, yes. But my cloak, on the other hand, required a whole day of consideration. Aha! Christina burst into laughter. Eugene anticipated the follow-up remarks and quietly stepped back. One day. No, that cloak is the one Sir Eugene purchased that very day. Huh. And Lady Sienna, Sir Eugene prepared the cloak as a gift for you because Lady Anise advised him to prepare a gift for you, Christina said while holding back her laughter. Sienna's eyes widened. If it weren't for Lady Anise's advice, Sir Eugene would have come to meet you empty-handed. Furthermore, all of Eugene's attire that day was chosen based on my and Lady Anise's advice. Sienna was left fumbling for words. And one more thing, Lady Sienna. The gift you received was just a cloak. On the other hand, he. Christina beamed with a mischievous smile as she raised her necklace slightly. A necklace that Sir Eugene personally thought of and chose, and he put it around my neck not once but twice. Sienna's eyes twitched. I received a jacket and Lady Anise received a coat. Snap. Sienna's incisors clenched tightly. Oh my. I received 3 gifts. Where did that brat go? Sienna shouted angrily, turning her head to search for Eugene. Ignoring the distant shouts, Eugene hastened his steps as he tried to flee the disaster. Chapter 335. Preparation 1. Ancilla savored the aroma of the red tea while reminiscing about the past. Gilead's first wife, Tanis, had been sensitive and temperamental. As a mother and a woman, Ancilla felt great sorrow over her death. Nevertheless, thanks to Tanis' passing, Ancilla became the rightful matriarch of the Grand Lionheart family, just as she had always desired. Due to Tanis' departure, Ancilla also had to change, and becoming the first wife of the family brought her a sense of contentment and abundance. Her strict parenting style softened, and she began to respect the choices and will of her twins. Eugene Lionheart, who had been adopted into the main family, had been the subject of concern from the beginning. According to Ancilla's thoughts, Eugene was too exceptional and outstanding. She feared that if he became a rival to her twins, it would be impossible for them to compete with him. Hence, Ancilla chose not to treat him as an enemy. She advised Cyan and Seal to behave similarly, and fortunately, everything turned out just as Ancilla had hoped. Eugene had always felt more mature compared to his age. Although he did not take Ancilla as his new mother, Eugene became a brother to the twins she bore. Moreover, thankfully, Eugene didn't aspire to rise to the position of the family head. In fact, he despised the very idea of becoming the head of the family and actively supported Cyan as the future patriarch. If Seal had desired to be the head, it would have caused various problems. But fortunately, Seal showed no such ambition. Eventually, it became certain that Cyan would be the next head of the Lionheart family. In retrospect, Ancilla realized the children had grown up in an environment that fostered grudges. The mansion had changed significantly from when Ancilla first arrived in the Lionheart family. Initially, the mansion had been desolate and quiet. It was too vast, and the only person she could truly consider her family had been her husband, Gilead. Tanis had never once thought of Ancilla as family, and young Ewed had avoided her. Then what about the loyal knights of the family? When Ancilla first arrived, all the knights in the mansion had been on Tanis' side. As Tanis' temperament became twisted over time, the knights' loyalty wavered, but in the beginning Ancilla only had her husband on her side. However, even he didn't put her heart completely at ease. When they first married, Gilead couldn't be called a good husband, even with empty words. As the head of the Lionheart family, he needed to have and show adequate skills and reputation, so Gilead often had to leave the mansion for various reasons. Every time that happened, Ancilla had to stay alone in the large mansion, which was simply too big. Ancilla's maiden family in Caney's County was considered a powerful noble family even within the empire, But Ancilla never once sought comfort from her family. She had endured while harboring ambitions of becoming the first lady of the Lionheart family. Now, after more than 20 years of bitter enduring, Ancilla succeeded in eventually turning her enemies into allies and became the mistress of the Lionheart family. I thought that alone would be enough. Now the Lionheart estate was no longer desolate and quiet. Instead it was bustling and noisy. Elves lived in the forest where animals used to roam freely, and Ancilla's family had grown by 2 members. Moreover, they also had 2 extraordinary guests staying with them. As the family expanded, so did Ancilla's worries. But contrary to her worries, surprisingly, everything continued without a hitch, smoothly and peacefully. It turned out she had been worried for nothing. It was the same even now. Ancilla glanced up and looked ahead. The wise Sienna, the companion of the great Vermouth, the family's ancestor, was sitting beside Ancilla, enjoying her cup of tea with her. Ancilla had imagined it to be an extremely uncomfortable situation. She had never imagined that she would be sitting casually with the wise Sienna like old friends, but now that they were face to face, it didn't feel uncomfortable at all. Sienna Meridian turned out to be far removed from the person Ancilla had imagined. It might be considered disrespectful to think so, but Ancilla found the 300-year-old Sienna rather innocent and adorable. Almost as if she were her daughter. That can't be true. Of course, she was merely entertaining a thought. Ancilla could never truly treat Sienna as her daughter. Lady Ancilla, Sienna, who had been enjoying her tea, spoke up. It was Sienna who proposed to meet for tea. Was it to foster camaraderie? No, it wasn't for such a simple reason. Sienna had a shrewd and definite purpose, and she was also curious about Ancilla. If your husband were to take another wife, how would you feel about it? Sienna asked. Pardon me. Well, if your husband were to take another wife. There was one more. Would you be able to get along with them? Continued Sienna. It was difficult to discern why Sienna was asking such a question. Ancilla composed her expression before answering. Lady Sienna, I was once a concubine to my husband. Ah, yes, I know that as well. However, you are now the wife, aren't you? Said Sienna. Yes, I yearned for that position earnestly, muttered Ancilla. There was an unfortunate incident, I heard. I don't doubt your qualifications nor want to discuss stories about the deceased that I haven't met or known. How should she put this into words? Sienna fidgeted with her fingers and scrunched her eyebrows. Mayer, who was quietly munching on a pastry, looked alternatingly at Sienna and Ancilla. If my husband were to take another woman as his wife, I would still make an effort to, I would make an effort to get along, answered Ancilla. Would you not resent your husband? Sienna. I would resent him. I am a woman after all, Ancilla said with a bitter smile and set her teacup down. Still, if he were to take a concubine, I would strive to get along as long as she does not seek to take my place. Your place? Asked Sienna. As the first wife, Ancilla's voice grew firm and decisive. I too made an effort to become the first wife when I entered as a concubine. Isn't the first always better than the second? Indeed, Sienna readily agreed. If my husband loves me the most and personally protects my place, and if my child can inherit the family, then I wouldn't mind how many other wives he takes, declared Ancilla. Really? Truly? Asked Sienna. Now that I think about it again, I might mind after all. It's common for noblemen to take multiple wives and likewise noble women to have several paramours, but this is what I think. Ancilla lowered her voice slightly before continuing. If my husband takes multiple wives, wouldn't he be considered trash? Trash. Yes, it's a secret. My husband, the head of the family, is an exceptional person, but I thought he had some trash-like aspects. In the past, that is, said Ancilla. Gilead had taken a concubine because Tanis could no longer bear children. To become the head of the main family, one had to be the most outstanding among the numerous Lionheart family members, and competing with siblings from a young age had always been a tradition. Gilead might feel wronged if he were to hear this, but Ancilla had truly believed so when she was younger. Trash? Yes, perhaps. They would be trash, right? Sienna said while nodding excitedly. Why did she propose tea time with Ancilla? She wanted to share her resentment towards Eugene with someone, but it wasn't like she could do so with his father, Gerhard. Her elder brother, Signard? After all, he was an elf and his perspective was vastly different from humans. Lady Sienna, you Ancilla hesitated for a moment after starting to speak. She worried that her question might come across as too impolite. But wasn't she being too obvious and blatant about it? Sienna had acted so blatantly in front of everyone. Should Ancilla pretend to be unaware? There was a moment of hesitation. Memories from a few days ago resurfaced. Ancilla remembered Sienna and Mare choosing dresses early in the morning. They had been like mother and daughter. Then what about their father? Ancilla was silent as she contemplated. Was that all there was to it? Conversations were circulating among the staff at the mansion. The master and disciple walked in the forest without fail every day. Master and disciple. Sure, it could be seen that way, but the elves spoke of something completely different. Lady Sienna, about Eugene. Pfft. Sienna spewed out the tea she had been drinking. The liquid splattered indelicately outside her lips, but Mare immediately used magic to prevent the tea from wetting the table. At this point, Mare had expected Sienna to splutter the tea. It had been a simple, easy calculation. What about Eugene? Sienna asked in alarm. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand in a fluster. Mare looked at Sienna with a pout before saying, Lady Sienna, you're saying something different from when we were on our way here. What did I say? You said you would gain Lady Ancilla's support and have your relationship officially acknowledged by the Lionheart family, Mare continued on Sienna's behalf. She could no longer stay quiet. The familiar words made Sienna's face turn as red as a ripe apple, and Ancilla's lips parted in surprise. A relationship? Ancilla asked. No, well ahem. Sienna struggled to respond. Are you already in such a relationship? Why not? Is it not allowed? Sienna stammered while placing her cup down with trembling hands. There was no going back now. Well, it might be possible, don't you think? I mean, you should understand it well, but Eugene, he has so many charming qualities, doesn't he? Yes. Indeed, he's young, but, he doesn't act like a child. Sienna rollered on with her explanation. Although Ancilla had already anticipated this, having it confirmed still came as a shock. She blinked dazedly while listening to Sienna's words. I can't explain it properly, but there is a profound bond between Eugene and me. An incredible bond. 300 years mean nothing in the face of such a bond. Truly, Lady Ancilla, is it because I am 300 years old that you won't acknowledge the relationship between Eugene and me? Lady Sienna, please calm down. Does age really matter? So what if I'm 300 years old? I lived for 300 years. But if someone were to say I'm only 300 years old, it would be so unfair. Sienna felt wronged and unjustified, and her pent-up frustration finally exploded. It had been impossible for Sienna to retaliate when Christina Rodriguez, that wicked woman, had pummeled her with words. What made it even more distressing for Sienna was Anis's presence. Even though Anis wasn't in a better position than her. Those two didn't tear each other apart. Rather, they were like two heads of a snake, both dedicated to tormenting Sienna. Look at my body. Does this look like the body of a 300-year-old? No. I crafted it to be perfectly 20 years old. My body is 20, so why am I 300? My mind. I am 300, but I think like I'm 20. I have lived for 300 years, but I live like I'm 20. So why on earth am I 300 years old? Sienna finally lost her composure and started babbling about what was bothering her the most. Lady Sienna, please, Lady Sienna. Ancilla hurriedly stood up and approached Sienna to calm her down. The wise Sienna, companion of the great Vermouth, their ancestor, she was the most exceptional wizard in history. Ancilla was concerned that Sienna's hysterical declaration of being 20 would be overheard by the servants and knights in the mansion. Lady Sienna, I don't think of you as a 300-year-old. Ancilla hurriedly shouted. Really? Really? Sienna questioned. Yes, of course. You are younger and more beautiful than me. Your mind. You are like 20. As disrespectful as it may sound, you are like a daughter to me, Ancilla reassured. I knew it. I heard you treated Mare like your daughter. Even though Mare is 150 years older than you. Sienna shouted excitedly. It was a truth that Ancilla had been avoiding all this time, something she had not wanted to acknowledge. Mare pouted in annoyance. She found it irritating that Sienna just had to point this out. I may be 200 years old, but I have the body of a young girl. My identity is that of a young girl, said Mare. It's the same for me. I'm also 300 years old, but I have the body of a young dame, said Sienna confidently. Saying young dame makes you sound kind of old, Mare muttered softly, and Sienna's fist clenched with anger. She could not believe that instead of taking her side, Mare was stabbing her in the back. Calm down, Lady Sienna, please. I believe that age doesn't matter when it comes to loving someone, said Ancilla. Do you really think so? Sienna asked expectantly. Yes. Then are you acknowledging my relationship with Eugene? Asked Sienna. Acknowledging? I'm not sure if it's my place to acknowledge. I am not Eugene's biological parent. But you are the mistress of this household, Ancilla. Well, yes, I am, but... Ancilla hesitated. He felt confused. Though she was the mistress of the Lionheart family, wasn't Eugene the actual big shot of this family? Whatever relationship or marriage Eugene decided to pursue would be entirely his choice. Ancilla, Gilead, and even his biological parent, Gerhard, would have no say in the matter. What could they say if he simply said that he liked someone and wanted to be with them? Please acknowledge it, Sienna begged. What? Please acknowledge it quickly, Sienna repeated. As for Sir Gerhard, Ancilla began saying before being interrupted. Please acknowledge it, then tell him in my place, responded Sienna. Sienna had cunningly intended for this outcome from the very beginning. She had planned to win Ancilla to her side and gain her acknowledgement. And then, through Ancilla, she would inform Gilead and Gerhard about the relationship. Oh, I understand. I will acknowledge it as you wish. I will try to inform my husband and Sir Gerhard as well, said Ancilla. Lady Ancilla, Sienna called out. Sienna still hesitated with her palm against her flushed cheek. Do you think I'm being vulgar and shameless? Asked Sienna. What? Am I being shameless? Sienna asked once more. Sienna was obviously hoping for Ancilla to say no, but she could not bring herself to say it. Sienna's face filled with despair as she looked at Ancilla's wavering eyes. You said I'm like a daughter to you. Sienna said. Well, did you lie? That. I was just saying. Shameless. I didn't think of it to that extent, Ancilla said haltingly. You thought something similar, didn't you? How could you do that to me? I am the wise Sienna. I was friends with Vermouth, who founded this family. And now you think I'm shameless. Sienna cried out. Please, Lady Sienna, don't say such things. Address me informally too. What? Ancilla said, perplexed. You address Mare informally. So, please address me informally too. Like I'm your daughter. Sienna. Lady Sienna, do you even realize what you're saying? Ancilla asked with concern. I don't know anything. I'm going to be your daughter. I'm a baby. The words poured out of Sienna, a result of the sorrow and injustice she felt. These words created a tempest in Sienna's mind. The overwhelming shame was too much to bear with her normal state of mind, so she drove away her own sanity. She gasped for breath while lowering her head in distress. Ancilla closed her eyes tight. She sensed that Sienna's nonsensical and shameful words and actions would not stop unless she made a bold decision. Sienna. Hey. Mother. Sienna. Mother. What a spectacle this was. Mare stared at Sienna in disbelief. Naturally, Sienna was the most embarrassed out of everyone. She felt a powerful urge to end her own life as her head drooped. Mother. No. Lady Ancilla, Sienna called out after a while. Yes. Lady Sienna, answered Ancilla. You have a daughter, right? Asked Sienna. Yes. Her name is Seal Lionheart. I would like to meet her. I am confident we would get along well, said Sienna. Yes. I hope you will take care of my daughter. Ancilla secretly worried about Seal. Seal hadn't explicitly mentioned it, but it was evident that she had a romantic interest in Eugene. What should I do about this? They weren't related by blood and they weren't even close relatives, so there would be no issue with marriage. Although the fact that Eugene was an adopted son was somewhat concerning, it could be resolved at the time of their marriage. They could simply revoke his position then. In fact, it had been the long-standing hope of Gilead and Ancilla for some time. If Cyan firmly secured his position as the head of the Lionheart family while Seal developed a good relationship with Eugene, It would become a significant asset to the main branch. But, Lady Sienna, you mentioned that you are in a relationship with Eugene. What exactly is the relationship between Eugene and Saint Christina? Ancilla asked tentatively. On the surface, they were the hero and the saint, but frankly, their relationship didn't seem so simple. Sienna was explicit more so than Seal. But Christina, didn't she openly and blatantly appeal to Eugene? Compared to her, Seal and Sienna's efforts felt like nothing more than child's play. Before Sienna came to the Lionheart estate, when Christina had been the sole competitor, everyone at the main branch had witnessed how devotedly she showed her affection to Eugene. Are you asking because you don't know? Sienna asked, looking discouraged. As expected. Trash. He's trash. That bastard is trash, Sienna shouted in exasperation. Ancilla hesitated whether to agree with those words or not. Trash. It was true, but in reality, wasn't he an incredible piece of trash? The wise Sienna, a great hero from 300 years ago, the saint of this era, and my daughter too. Thinking about it made Ancilla angry. Eugene Lionheart. Trash and scoundrel. Thank you for the tea. Sienna staggered as she stood up from her seat. Ancilla also stood up. They exchanged awkward glances for a moment. I support you, Lady Sienna, Ancilla said. Yes. Don't be too heartbroken. Age doesn't matter. Right. And, if Eugene brings in another woman, please get along well, Ancilla advised. Huh. That's a bit different from what you said earlier. No, it's not like that. I said I would try to get along well, right? Ancilla turned her head in embarrassment. Sienna looked puzzled to see her like that. She had never met Seal before and hadn't heard any stories about her from Anise, Mare, or even Christina. Hey. I don't want to fight with Christina either, Sienna acquiesced. In truth, she didn't have the confidence to win a fight. I'll try to get along well. Before Sienna could finish her words, the sky suddenly darkened. The surroundings turned as dark as night, and Ancilla looked up at the sky in surprise. Oh my goodness! Ancilla opened her eyes wide in astonishment. The figure of a dragon with its wings spread wide could be seen in the sky above the Lionheart mansion. Chapter 336. Preparation 2. While Sienna and Mare were having tea with Ancilla, Eugene was with Christina. It was due to the task of purifying the humongous body of Raizakia. By borrowing the power of the Holy Sword, Eugene could assist Christina by helping to accelerate the purification process. Eugene had no reason to refuse the request, as he rarely used the Holy Sword outside of battles. So for the past few days he had been by Christina's side. He was with her through the majority of the day, starting from when the sun was up. The deity that Christina and Anise served was the god of light, and Altair, the holy sword Eugene possessed, was also the creation of the god of light. In truth, the divine power of the god of light didn't necessarily require the surroundings to be bright. But reasons could be fabricated whenever they were needed. What a scary child, Anise thought wholeheartedly. It was Christina who had planned all of this. Daytime and dusk. The length of each depended on the season, but Christina judged that monopolizing Eugene during daylight would be overwhelmingly advantageous. Her judgment had been correct. Dusk. Night. What did one usually do at night? Ordinary people slept. Some may even choose to do something naughty. Unfortunately, Sienna didn't have the courage for that. The only thing Sienna could do with Eugene during the night was to take a walk. How much longer do you think it will take? Asked Eugene. I think it will be done in about 2 weeks at the latest, Christina responded with a smile, her praying posture unaltered. It wasn't a lie. Initially, she had expected it to take more than a month, but with the aid of the Holy Sword, the purification process would be completed in 2 weeks. The problem is how to use this. Eugene sat with his arms crossed, lost in thought. There were various ways to make use of a dragon's corpse, but the remains of dragons were extremely difficult to handle as materials. In truth, it was more appropriate to say unknown rather than difficult. Most dragons had been hunted and killed 300 years ago, but there were hardly any records of humans hunting dragons before that. Yet, a few artifacts made from dragon materials existed on the continent, although they were very rare. But the existence of such artifacts was due to the mercy and grace of dragons. A dying dragon could choose to bestow its own flesh upon someone instead of returning its body to nature. It was an infrequent event, but there had been a few occurrences in the history of the continent. For example, the dragon heart in Siena Zakasha was a gift from a dragon that had formed a bond with the elves. Even in his past life as Hamel, Eugene had wandered with his comrades in Helmuth, where he encountered a dying dragon and received their dragon heart as a gift. The founder of the Dragonic family, Oryx Dragonic, received the grace of a dragon while exploring a dungeon. Throughout the long history of the continent, such instances were rare but still existed. The problem was that they were too rare, and even the most skilled craftsmen lacked the knowledge and techniques to handle the materials properly. As a family of warriors, the Lionheart family had connections with artisan guilds and also personal friendships with the finest craftsmen and blacksmiths, those known as master craftsmen. However, even the master craftsmen had expressed their hesitancy and diffidence in dealing with materials from a dragon. So that wasn't a viable option. Nothing less than perfection was expected with such exquisite materials. In the end, we have to turn to the dwarves. There were no dwarves in the artisan guilds. The proud dwarves refused to join guilds on equal terms with human craftsmen. If I had known that, I would have brought a dwarf from the Dragon Demon Castle. Eugene clicked his tongue with regret. If he had brought the dwarves from the Dragon Demon Castle, he wouldn't be worrying about such matters now. I heard that Noir Giabella, that lewd woman, took in the dwarves from the Dragon Demon Castle. Christina frowned as she spoke. Giabella Park or something like that. They're working there now. A different master, huh? Those ungrateful bastards, after all the trouble I went through to set them free, they're groveling at Noir's feet. Eugene spat out his words with bitterness. Of course, Eugene didn't overthrow Dragon Demon Castle for the sake of the dwarves' freedom. It just happened to end up that way. And unlike when they were unpaid slaves at Dragon Demon Castle, the dwarves were now enjoying fulfilling and happy days under Noir Giabella, working on what they desired. Naturally, Eugene and Christina didn't care about that fact. We also inquired with the papacy and Commander Raphael. There are dwarven craftsmen in Uraz, but they are specialists in areas like fine crafts and sculptures. They don't feel confident in making weapons and armor, said Christina. Looks like we have to look into Shimuan after all, said Eugene. The nation with the largest population of dwarves on the continent was Shimuan. The reason was simple. Shimuan had long been called the Nation of Knights, and free knights and mercenaries from all over the continent stayed there at least once during their training or quest. As a result, Shimuan boasted advanced blacksmithing and craftsmanship for knights and mercenaries. Also, Shimuan's representative magical armor, Exid, came in various types from high-grade to low-quality lower-grade ones. All of the high-grade Exid were made by dwarves. The leader of the Violent Tide Knights, Ordus Hyman, used an Exid that used a portion of dragon heart in its creation. It used dragon scales and leather as well. It wasn't just the one either. Shimuan possessed several weapons made from dragon materials other than the various Exid. To process Raizakia's corpse perfectly, they would need to bring the dwarves from Shimuan. However, it was easier said than done as this plan posed a more complex problem. The dwarves of Shimuan were considered invaluable cultural assets and received the utmost respect. The royal family was also fiercely protective of the dwarves' craftsmanship, preventing it from being exposed to foreign nations. We could kill Iris and ask for the dwarves' support in return. No, that seems like a losing deal for us, Eugene thought as he considered his options. Shimuan faced various difficulties after the ascent of Iris into a great pirate. Even if Shimuan sent their soldiers in Ortis, it would be extremely challenging to face Iris and her fleet, which consisted of hundreds of ships. Iris Demon Eye of Darkness excelled not only in terms of offensive power but also in mobility. Regardless of how powerful Shimuan's navy was, Iris' power would make it essentially impossible for the navy to hold an advantage over them. However, it would be different for Eugene. No matter how many pirates were under her command, they were ultimately weaklings, weren't they? Once he cut off that damn dark elf's head, everything would work out somehow. When they fought in Kiel, there was no prominence or eclipse. Eugene didn't use ignition or the moonlight sword either. However, he did not need to restrict himself in Shimuan. Moreover, how could he possibly fail with the support of Sienna, Christina, and Anise? If I was facing Noir or Gavid, it might be difficult. But Iris is... He didn't think she was an opponent worth worrying about. True, she was stronger than 300 years ago, but he was confident in killing her if they battled now. In the first place, hadn't Iris suffered a terrible defeat against Noir Giabella? If he struggled against a mere Iris, he would never be able to kill Noir, let alone the Demon King of Incarceration. His thoughts were abruptly interrupted. Eugene raised his head, sensing a magical abnormality in the sky above them. His eyes widened as the surroundings were plunged into a deep night in an instant. A gigantic form had obscured the sun by spreading its wings. It was a dragon. With black scales that seemed to swallow light, the black dragon flaunted its majesty as it gazed down below. It was quite obvious why the black dragon had appeared so suddenly. Eugene's expression crumpled when he heard the dragon's laughter, which caused the air to tremble. Behold, you meager humans. This is the true form of this lady. See how these black scales shine like obsidian, wings that cover the sky. The dragon's voice was filled to the brim with arrogance. The knights of the Lionheart family came rushing out at the dragon's sudden appearance. They were taken aback but quickly regrouped and organized themselves. Dragon. Gilead and Guion also made their appearance, jumping onto the roof of the mansion with shock. Eugene knew the true identity of the dragon, but he knew those who did not could misunderstand. Could there be another dragon from Helmuth seeking revenge for Raizakia? Or maybe another black dragon came to reclaim Raizakia's body? It's all right, Eugene spoke while suppressing a sigh. He had ended up on the rooftop with Gilead and Guion. Oh, benefactor. No human. The massive dragon's head descended. Rhaenyra looked at Eugene with her large, purple, glimmering eyes. As you wished, this lady has regained the power of the dragon. This form is this lady's true appearance. It appeared she was overflowing with power after having her restrictions removed. She no longer addressed him as benefactor. Instead, Rhaenyra fluttered her wings while staring at Eugene with taunting eyes. The winds caused the forest to sway. This lady cannot help but think she is talented and special, even among dragons. Perhaps as I am now, it's possible too. Are you insane? Eugene lowered his voice and asked, What the hell are you doing? Come down quickly. Do not command this lady. Enough. Eugene clenched his fist and raised it into the air. He felt like flying up there and giving her a piece of his mind, but he decided it was unnecessary. Rhaenyra had already been conditioned to pain from the lessons he had taught her before. Rhaenyra suddenly went quiet. Ariardel had freed Rhaenyra from the red jewel, and Rhaenyra had recovered the power of the dragon that had been suppressed for 200 years. Thanks to that, Rhaenyra was now free to use polymorph and could also transform into her original draconic form. She could now use draconic and had received advice from Ariardel on how to use it properly. The sudden surge of power excited Rhaenyra greatly. So before Eugene came to pick her up, she flew directly across the sky to the Lionheart's mansion. Thanks to Ariardel providing her with directions, Rhaenyra had found her way here. However, Rhaenyra's excitement quickly subsided. The glimmer in the golden eyes gazing at her from below and the rage that pierced and penetrated her scales caused the red jewel in Rhaenyra's forehead to throb with pain. It was just a joke. Don't be so angry. Come down quickly. Yes. I understand. Benefactor. With this power, maybe she could. She had entertained such thoughts in her excitement, but she realized how absurd it was when she considered it carefully. Even though she had recovered her power, Rhaenyra was still a hatchling. Eugene had relentlessly pressured Raizakia, an ancient dragon, until his last breath. Therefore, logically, it was impossible for Rhaenyra to resist Eugene, no matter what tricks she tried. In the end, Rhaenyra started descending obediently. However, Eugene raised his fist again as he spat. Are you really going to come down in that state? Do you want to be punished? Ariardel had said that dragons were great and dignified beings. They should always show the dignity of a dragon and never bow down to insults and humiliation. Disgrace and humiliation it is not, for you saved my life, benefactor. That is why you are my benefactor. That is why this lady must repay her grace. Moreover, it was the duty of dragons to protect the world. When necessary, they could not hesitate to lay down their lives. Benefactor is the hero. As this lady is the guardian of the world, it is only natural that I support the benefactor in saving the world. Therefore, this lady is not oppressed by benefactor. This lady is a comrade who supports benefactor's fight for the world. Rhaenyra reasoned with herself, trying to convince herself with such thoughts. Or, she used draconic. The shadow cast by her outstretched wings vanished as the giant black dragon transformed into her human form. Eugene's eyebrows twitched as he watched Rhaenyra descend to the ground. Initially, Rhaenyra had the appearance of a young child, not much different from Mare. However, what on earth was this new form? She was much more mature, as if someone had mixed Christina and Noir together. Moreover, her horns were now much larger than before. From today, this is this lady's true form. You changed that right away, Eugene shouted. What's the problem? Be benefactor, don't you like this form? Where did a little brat like you learn these weird things? What on earth is this getup? And what about the clothes? Eugene shouted. Oh, what's wrong with the clothes? Rhaenyra asked with a puzzled, wronged expression. How should he say this? Eugene shook his head with a long sigh. He knew the outfit looked somewhat familiar. After combing his memory, he remembered they were the stage outfits of the demon idols dancing on Pandemonium's magic screen. Who goes around wearing such clothes? Eugene shouted. All of the dream girls wore this outfit while dancing, retorted Rhaenyra. Change it. What kind of appearance do you want me to change into? I will change it to whatever benefactor desires. First, lower your fist. This lady cannot approach you because I am afraid of the fist. Change back to how you were before. Does the benefactor want me in my little form? Yeah. Benefactor wants a young appearance. I understand. Didn't that sound a bit strange? Something felt wrong. Eugene quickly looked around and saw Gilead and Guion beside him, both looking confused. The expressions of the knights and soldiers below were not very different either. What's with the strange misunderstanding? It's not like I'm Cyan or anything, Eugene hurriedly explained. What about me? Cyan, who had rushed over with his sword, looked unfairly offended as he yelled. Well, you're engaged to basically a child, said Eugene. Not yet, retorted Cyan. Well, you might soon. I mean, I don't like the child in a romantic way. I just care for her like a daughter, that's all. What? Don't say it like that, you damn bastard. Cyan shouted in anger and frustration. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra changed her appearance again. She took the familiar form of a young girl and gracefully descended from the rooftop towards Eugene. This lady took on the form the benefactor desired, she said, still stealing glances at Eugene's clenched fist. Oh, how he wanted to give her a good knock on the head. Eugene lowered his fist and let out a deep sigh. Well, how should he explain this? Eugene pondered for a moment before turning to Gilead. Gilead did not rush him but instead patiently waited for Eugene to speak. She, is the daughter of Rhyzakia, Eugene said. The daughter of the demonic dragon? Asked Gilead. Yes, that's right. So I killed her father, so I felt sorry for her and took her in. Oh, but don't worry, she doesn't have any intentions of seeking revenge for her father, Eugene explained. Benefactor has shown grace to this lady, said Rhaenyra. Just look at her. You really don't need to worry. She is, more like a pet, I suppose. Eugene continued. A dragon as a pet? Guion muttered with a face of disbelief. Although he had blurted it out in the heat of the moment, even Eugene thought calling her a pet was a bit much. As he contemplated, he noticed Ancilla and Sienna standing on the terrace below. She is Mare's friend. Eugene pointed towards Mare. They get along very well. Maybe Lady Ancilla will also like her. Ancilla's gaze felt strange for some reason, but Eugene didn't think too much of it.